On November 17, 1986, a Japan Airlines cargo 747 was crossing the darkness over eastern Alaska when its captain, a former fighter pilot with 29 years in the air, radioed Anchorage with a report he knew could end his career. Something was pacing his aircraft, and when he described its size, he didn't compare it to another plane. He compared it to 2 aircraft carriers. For the next half hour, air traffic control, military radar, and a veteran flight crew all tried to answer the same question. What was flying beside Flight 1628? This is UAP Press. We don't tell you what to believe. We show you the record, the witnesses on the record, the radar data the government kept, and the documents that followed, and let the file speak for itself. Japan Airlines Flight 1628 was about as unglamorous as aviation gets, a Boeing 747 freighter hauling cargo, including a load of French Beaujolais wine, from Paris to Tokyo, with stops in Iceland and Anchorage. No passengers, just 3 crew, and a routine polar route flown 1,000 times. In command was Captain Kenju Terauchi, 29 years of flying, a former fighter pilot, by every account a serious and experienced aviator. Beside him, First Officer Takanori Tamefuji, and behind them, Flight Engineer Yoshio Tsukuba. 3 professionals, at cruise altitude, in the quiet stretch of a long night. At about 5:10 in the evening, local time, the aircraft was at 35,000 feet near the Alaskan border, the winter sun already gone, when Terauchi noticed lights below and to the left. Lights he first took for military aircraft. Standard traffic. Nothing worth a radio call. Then the lights did something traffic doesn't do. 2 clusters of lights leapt directly in front of the aircraft. Terauchi described them arranged in rectangular arrays, like flying pallets of fire, close enough that the crew said they could feel warmth on their faces through the cockpit glass. They danced, in his words, like ping-pong balls. Abrupt stops, instant reversals, movements with no visible means of propulsion. First Officer Tamefuji would later describe the lights to investigators as Christmas assorted colors, amber, green, pale white, pulsing in unison. This matters because it is the co-pilot, the more cautious witness, confirming the core of the sighting on the record. The lights were there, they moved together, and they were like nothing he had seen in a career of night flying. The crew radioed Anchorage Center. The controller's tapes, later released, record the exchange in real time. Flight 1628 reporting traffic ahead that no one had cleared, and Anchorage answering that they had no traffic in that piece of sky. The crew tried the onboard weather radar and got a return, a large echo, 7 or 8 miles out, where nothing was supposed to be. Then the smaller lights withdrew, and Terauchi saw what he would call the mothership. Against the last pale light on the horizon, he made out a silhouette, an enormous shape, like a giant walnut standing on its edge, that he estimated at twice the size of an aircraft carrier. His own 747, one of the largest aircraft in the sky, was, in his words, tiny by comparison. Anchorage gave the crew permission to do whatever it took. Flight 1628 descended 4,000 feet. The lights stayed with them. The 747 flew a complete 360-degree turn. When they rolled out, the shape was still there, holding formation off their left side, mile after mile, for more than 300 miles of Alaska. Here is the detail worth sitting with. A Boeing 747 executed evasive maneuvers, a descent and a full circle, over American airspace, with air traffic control's blessing, because of something its crew could see and could not identify. That alone makes this file remarkable. What makes it singular is what the ground was seeing at the same time. Because this time, the radar saw it too. Some of it. Anchorage Center's controllers reported intermittent primary returns near Flight 1628. An extra target, without a transponder, appearing and disappearing in the vicinity the crew was pointing at. The controller asked the military to look, and the Regional Operations Command Center at Elmendorf reported the same thing. A second return, close to the JAL flight, that came and went. Anchorage offered to scramble military assistance. Terauchi declined. He later said he remembered what happened to pilots who chased these things. A United Airlines flight was vectored to take a look. By the time it drew close and the crews could see each other, the object was gone. Whatever had shadowed Flight 1628 for half an hour did not wait around to be photographed. Flight 1628 landed safely in Anchorage. The wine was delivered. And under any normal circumstances, that would be the end of it. A strange report, a tired crew, a footnote in a logbook. Instead, it became one of the most thoroughly documented UAP cases in American history, because the Federal Aviation Administration decided to investigate. The FAA spent 3 months on Flight 1628. Investigators interviewed the crew under oath-like conditions, collected the controller tapes, and preserved the radar data. The actual returns second by second. In early 1987, the agency announced its conclusion, and it is a very careful sentence. The FAA was, quote, unable to confirm the object. Not a hoax, not a misidentification, unable to confirm. The file might have gathered dust, except for the man who ran the FAA's Accidents and Investigations Division at the time, John Callahan. Years later, Callahan went on the record with an extraordinary claim that early in 1987, government officials, including, he said, members of the CIA, were briefed on the case at FAA headquarters, took the data, and told the room, in his words, that this event never happened. Callahan also said he kept copies, the radar data, the tapes, the reports, in his office, and he produced them publicly in 2001. His claim about the briefing remains his account, told under his own name by the man whose job title made him responsible for exactly this kind of investigation. The underlying FAA file, meanwhile, is real, released, and readable by anyone. Hundreds of pages of transcripts, charts, and crew statements. Captain Terauchi paid a price for talking. After his account reached the press, Japan Airlines moved him from the cockpit to a desk. It took years before he flew again. Whatever one believes about what he saw, the record shows what happens to an airline captain who reports it, which is worth remembering every time someone asks why more pilots don't come forward. Now the counterargument, because this channel owes you one. The best-known skeptical analysis came from Philip Klass, who noted that on that November evening, Jupiter was exceptionally bright and low on the horizon near the flight's path, with Mars nearby. Fatigued eyes, a dark cockpit, a long flight. The initial lights, he argued, could have been planets. The radar has a skeptical reading too. The FAA's own analysis suggested the extra target may have been a split image. The 747's own radar return, duplicated by a processing artifact. And human memory is not a recorder. Terauchi's estimate of the object's size was exactly that. An estimate made at night against a darkening sky with no reference points. Those explanations deserve to be weighed, and they have limits. Planets do not appear on a 747's weather radar 7 miles out. A split image does not explain the military's radar seeing an intermittent second target as well. And 3 crew members independently described structured arrays of lights at close range, not 2 dots on the horizon. The file does not close cleanly in either direction. That is precisely why it is still worth reading. What is not in dispute: the tapes are real. The radar data was preserved. The FAA investigated for months and could not explain the event, and the man who led that investigation says the data was taken and the case was buried. In this series we deal in records, and this case has one of the deepest records ever assembled. The Nimitz gave us the modern era's strongest sensor case. Flight 1628 gives us something else, the strongest paper trail, an official federal investigation of a UAP encounter released to the public with the radar data attached. 2 different decades, 2 different oceans, the same unanswered question. In 1989, that question crossed the Atlantic. Over Belgium, thousands of witnesses began reporting a silent black triangle, and this time, the Air Force scrambled F-16s, locked it on radar, and published the data at a press conference. That's the next case file. Subscribe so you don't miss it. This is UAP Press. The file stays open.